So, welcome to Flourish's guide on how to prepare for the assignments. So, what I'd like you to do when you're getting ready is make sure that you read the assignment brief and answer the specific question. So, sometimes I think students will answer the question in terms of the topic, but they won't have specifically looked at how many examples are needed and the specifics, or perhaps they haven't applied it to a case organisation. So you end up losing marks unnecessarily. So make sure you've actually read the full assignment brief. Now, there is a guidance video that the CIPD provide. So we have those under the assignment folder on Teams. Unfortunately, that's not available for optional subjects, but it's just for the core and the pathways. And make sure that, again, you have the syllabus at hand. You only want to write about the topics listed in the syllabus. So don't go off track. There's lots of things that kind of interconnect, but make sure you stick to these syllabus assessment criteria. And of course, at Flourish, we provide you with the template. So please use that to populate your assignment, and that way you're getting all the correct paperwork done as well. So, as I kind of said, what you need to do is to work with your tutor and think about the timescales to make sure you're keeping on track. And for me, it's very much when we go through each live class that you draft up. It's not going to be perfect. You draft up an answer each week based on the assessment criteria that we've covered, so that you're keeping on top of things. What we don't want is a big mountain to climb at the end of the delivery, that it feels like, oh my gosh, I've got to write thousands of words now. If you just do a little bit, it doesn't have to be perfect, just jot down some ideas, then you can build on that. So as I kind of touched on, make sure that you're looking at that indicative content, that syllabus. Pay attention to how you're presenting. So we want it to look professional, where it's a professional qualification. So make sure it's legible, that you're correctly labeling, each topic, putting a short title in, putting page numbers in, and just making the presentation, the type of document you would give to your CEO. We will occasionally do work where we brainstorm approaches to an assignment and so on, but always remember that your assignment is your own work. It should only be your own work, and please don't share with other students, because sometimes you think you're trying to help them, but what you don't realize is that they might be plagiarizing your work. So, I kind of know when I've put samples out, I know those quite well, so that you might find, I'll know if it's kind of being plagiarized. You'll also find it useful if you submit some what we call formative. So send in your 3 assessment criteria that you're most worried about, that you think are perhaps your weakest answers, and I'll be able to give you some feedback on that. What we also want to see is, so if it's an answer, a question that you want to be talking about your assignment, your organisation, then great, make that really clear. But also, don't forget that if it's asking you to apply your answer to a case study, that you do that. So it's fine to put your own learning opportunities in, but if there is a case study, don't forget to answer the question and refer to the case study. There's lots of fact sheets, lots of CIPD materials that are online. We saved quite a bit of it, so on Teams, but we also give you that membership so that you can access that through your membership onto the CIPD website. Now, the template we provide, what I'd like you to do is to download that template to your laptop, but I want you to make sure it's got your name in the file, because if you can imagine, if lots of people send us the same FC001, it starts to kind of get a little bit like, oh my gosh. So put your name in it. So there's an example. And complete the form fully and provide a breakdown of your word count per task. I'll kind of show you an example. So they'll be populated already, the centre number, the centre name. You need to put your CIPD membership number in. But don't forget that we give you a 12-month membership as part of your fee. So just populate that in there, put your surname in, put your other names. The code, the title, and the assessment ID will be already populated for you, but you just need to put in the date that you start the assignment and the date that you submit it, and then declare your word count. So for this particular example, we've got 5675 words that have been used out of an allowance of that kind of 4550. Now, when you kind of write questions, bear in mind that you are allowed to go over your word count allowance by 10%. And I highly recommend that you do this. This is because you will be able to put in more evidence, more referencing, more examples. Those people that don't tend to not score as highly. Some people do, they get the full marks because they write quite concisely. But for the majority of students, in my experience, going over that 10% is vital. What we try to do is to make sure that you stick to a recommended word count range. So each assessment criteria is given that out. And that's so that students don't write lots and lots on a topic they do know well and understand well, and then sort of don't bother with something that they find a bit difficult. If you do that, yes, you'll score well on the ones you know lots about, but you'll probably get a referral on the one that you write less about. So make sure you balance out your word count. The answer needs to include the assessment criteria number. There is a title. You can shorten it, and I'll give you an example shortly. The answer and any references that you make in the text, we call those in-text references, that's all part of your word count. The reference list that goes right at the end of your document isn't counted, so that's not counted as a word count. So here's an example of task questions in one of our templates. Now, you can reduce the question, but you must always leave the assessment criteria number in. So assessment criteria 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Once you've completed your answer, please remove the red word count guidance. So I don't want to see 375 to 415 words in every assignment. That will be added to your word count. So you're using more word count on nothing. So remove that out. Here's an example of how you might take that first question, and instead of spending 2.5 lines, you're just using 2 words. So organizational structure is the first one, organizational strategy is the second, and the third one, that one, I've kind of, still kind of tried to make it precise, but it's still a lot shorter than the full question in the brief. So you have an ability to modify, but it's really good, I think, for presentation and to help your assessor to understand and remember what the topic is. You also need to make sure you fill it in your declaration of authenticity. I can't say the word. So you need to put your name in and a signature. And this signature needs to be what we refer to as a wet signature. Essentially, it's a real signature. So what I often say to people is, take a photograph of your real signature on a piece of paper and then just insert it, that picture file, whenever, you need to put your signature in. Typing your name is not acceptable and it will be returned. Always send your assignment as a Microsoft Word document. Never send it as a PDF. Assessors need to add their details, so we can't do that onto a PDF. The other aspect is to remember that the CIPD provides you with a list, a comprehensive list of quality sources. You'll find those in the syllabus. So make sure you utilize those. They would be the first place I would go to. These are the key and current thinking on the topic. Make sure that when you are making references, you are using Harvard referencing protocols. So that means in text you're referencing correctly, but you also need to add that to the reference list. It's a big, big no-no to use sites like LinkedIn or Indeed. Whilst there's nothing wrong with them, they're not what we call quality references. So use the CIPD recommended. Do not go onto plagiarism sites. There have been occasions where I'll sort of see CIPD assignment help in the references list. Please don't do those. Use academic sources, those recommended by the CIPD. And I know that, doing a kind of Google search is really quick. So if you're going to do a Google search, use Google Scholar. And then once you're in Google Scholar, you could do the search topic. And then what you'll be getting is academic sources returned. So that's a really good way to widen your reading. And before you finalise your assignment, make sure that you've added into the assessor feedback to learner the form right at the end. Don't forget to add your membership number, your surname, and your first names. I'm talking about the ratings, the scores. I think it's important for us to keep an eye on what we're trying to achieve. So with this, of course, we don't want to fail or a referral. I prefer to call it a referral. But what might happen is one of these elements might be applicable to your answer. So I'll read say your 1.1, and then I'll think, everything else is fine, but it asked for 3 examples and they only gave me 2. So it's got to be referred just for that alone. Or maybe there was no evidence of referencing, so no references were used, or there was only 1 or 2. And at level 5, we need to be expecting a little bit more. Perhaps the presentation's really bad. Or perhaps you've kind of gone off track a little bit. And that's sometimes where you end up not demonstrating sufficient knowledge and understanding. So if any one of these needs to be ticked, then you will get a referral. So kind of bear that in mind. A low pass is a pass. So that's good. And so what you will be doing, you would have stuck to the syllabus. You would have given the right number of examples that were asked for. You will have what we call sufficient evidence of referencing. Your referencing will have been done properly in text. Maybe there were some weaknesses in your presentation, or perhaps your answer wasn't particularly coherent, well structured, that kind of thing. So a low pass usually means that you've probably not put enough referencing in. You're not going to a wide range of referencing, or you're not referencing correctly. But any of those reasons could pull the score down. When it comes to a pass, or 3, so you've got a good level, you've stuck with everything that's on the syllabus again, you've got some really good use of examples, you've applied it to the case study properly, or you've applied it to your organisation, that kind of thing. There's good evidence, so better than sufficient, so that tends to say, a few more. There isn't a specific number set, so that kind of can be a little bit controversial, I suppose. But a good evidence of wider reading and the quality, so it's not your Indeed and so on. And you respond well and your presentation's good, so everything's fine. So a 3 is, I suppose, a good answer. Yeah. A 4 is is almost exceptional, I suppose. So what we're expecting is a wide and confident level of knowledge. Maybe you've covered everything you possibly could in the syllabus, really strong examples, considerable evidence of wider reading and good quality sources. And again, clearly writing concisely, well expressed and argued, and very neat and good structure to your presentation. So a high pass is achievable, but it really has to be something special. Okay. So people always strive for a 4. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't be disappointed if you get a 3, because a 3 is a solid answer. Each assignment will have a total scores, which is split between a fail, low pass, pass, and high pass. And again, that's dictated by the assignment that the CIPD provide. You'll have access to that in brief. And if you do get a referral, don't worry about it. It just means that you've got a little bit of rework needed to be done. And you should only make changes to that particular assessment criteria. So answers that are awarded 2, 3, or 4 have passed. And you can amend them, but they're not going to be remarked. You're not going to increase your grade. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't think about how you would improve it. But that kind of boat has sailed. So, you know, it might not be worth the time. You know, you're trying to juggle a job and a life. And then we ask you to resubmit any changes that you make in a bold blue font. So that's how it stands out. And anything that perhaps is taking you over word count that you don't think's useful anymore in that particular assessment criteria, we just strike through. And that just is a way of keeping our word count down. And we always suggest that you resubmit within 2 weeks, so that you're not kind of coming back, so it's not hanging over your head. It's done, it's boxed off, it's submitted, it's IV'd, it goes to the CIPD. So here's an example of kind of the thing that I would like to see. So an addition of some wider reading and taking out just a couple of words that don't really enhance the actual answer. So remember, we're writing not an English literature essay or anything like that. We're writing for a business. So you think about your CEO, just short, sharp. They don't want, you know, as much as it might be beautiful writing, and your A-level English language tutor might have loved it. Well, you know, this is a professional qualification, so we just want it done differently. When you do your resubmission, don't forget that you will need to put your new submission date in, which you can see this person's done it within the 2 weeks, and that the word counts change slightly. So you just need to post that as well. Now, when you do have a resubmission, unfortunately, in the past, you used to be able to say, well, it's now a 4 because it meets all the criteria for a 4. On a resubmission, if you've not got it right first time, the highest score you can get is a 2. However, and I always stress this to students, it doesn't matter whether you get a high, middle, or low pass. What you should always remember, CIPD certificate only states that you've passed. They don't say, oh, you know, Billy got a high pass for this assessment criteria and overall, you know, it doesn't give that detail. So you're probably over dwelling on not getting perfection when actually done is better than perfect, because you have got to remember that you're in full-time work, most of you, and you haven't trying to have a life and trying to do part-time study as well. So it's really tough. So be easy on yourself is my advice. So please get in contact if you have any questions at all. I'm always here to try and help. Take care, guys.